So here is the head honcho of Nomad Tackle, Damon Olsen. Damon, how many buildings is this for you? I remember you being down the road and then down the road. You started small and you're here.
Oh God, we started at home at Wavell Heights years ago. I remember we had tackle stacked up in our bathroom, had all sorts going on, and this is, I don't know, third or fourth now. I can't actually, third or fourth, somewhere in there. But anyway, we're here now, and it's a pretty awesome setup we've got here. Just moved in about a year ago.
From the front of the building, there's no signage. It all looks pretty stealth out there, but that belies the fact there's a lot of interesting stuff both domestically and internationally going on in here. Give us a bit of a rundown about that global side of your business. Every time I'm looking at American social media, there you are.
Yeah, we put a lot of effort into the US. We've got a lot of products that work really well. There's saltwater stuff, but also the freshwater stuff. So we've just launched in the freshwater market this year, really in March, and yeah, it's going really well. We've got lipless crankbaits, jerk baits, all sorts of stuff that we've kind of launched that have been developed over a lot of years. Using the test tank that we've got here before it was at this venue. But there's a lot of stuff, and it all starts here, testing it, drawing it. So it's been pretty cool this year to see stuff that we've worked on as an Australian company actually getting traction in the US in freshwater. So.
And I think that some of the names that you're associated with over there, guys watching this are going to know all about. So who do you work with in the States and the bass scene?
Oh, look, I mean, all the sort of big guys, like in terms of retailers, is Bass Pro, but, Gerald Sporer, Greg De Palma, we've got those guys that we're working pretty closely with, Oliver Nye. They've been fantastic. We've been working with Greg now for probably 2 years, maybe a bit longer, and Gerald came on board, I think, start of last year. So, having those guys that you can sort of use as a resource where, we've got ideas and the sort of the technical side of it, but the on the water application, those guys that are just there all the time, all day, every day, doing it in those, high-end tournaments, it's pretty valuable having that relationship.
And I've heard that one of your lures has won one of the high-end kayak tournaments already.
Yeah. Greg actually won on the little SWIMTREX Max, so little, lipless crankbait. Greg won, I think it was the first event that he went in with it, but I mean, I'd been sort of working on that bait with him last year, and he just loved it. It just got so much vibration, and the Autotune thing that, has come from the saltwater application. Yep. I've looked at it and said, how can we make this work in freshwater? It's something that can give a bait more vibration. And he's gone and then said, hey, this thing's amazing, I can use it. And they've sort of taught me things about it. And they're like, oh, this thing clears grass like crazy because it vibrates so much. And it's really, it's good for this application, that application. And it's been a really good mix.
Now, I heard a rumour, though, that maybe one or two of those bass guys are going to maybe see on the Barra Tour this year. Is that an idea which is going on in that head of yours?
It is, yeah. We're trying to figure out how can we get a few of those guys over here. Yeah. So it would be pretty cool to get that mix, because it's a very similar type of fishing, obviously. The way the fish sit in the lakes, it's it's different, but it's similar at the same time. So I'm hoping that we can get them over later in the year. It'd be pretty cool, and it's outside their main season too, so it's a good fit. Yeah,
two good things about Barra Tour is, one, it's after their season finishes, but two, Gussie, who came across for the Barra Tour last year, won the Bassmaster Classic. There is no better sell for these guys.
No, absolutely. It's going to be really exciting. So if we can get a few more of them over, and I mean, they love catching the fish, because I mean, catching a big barra in an impoundment's just so much fun, but there's a lot of the technical side of it that really translates. So it's exciting.
I think doing a lot of that stuff in person beats doing it over the internet.
Oh, absolutely. No, you've got to be here and see it. I mean, I travel over there all the time and sort of work with those guys hand in hand. You've got to spend time on there's no substitute for spending time on the water. You can't, you just can't beat it, really.
I hear rumours that there's a great test tank downstairs. I want to go down and have a look at it, but I want to run through with you some of the baits that I think might play at the next two ABT Bass events this weekend and next week. So can you take us down, show some toys?
Let's go check it out. Come on, go downstairs.
So, Damon, we've found this in the corner of the warehouse, and it looks like it's an indoor spa sales room, but it's not. This is your test tank, and it is a beauty.
This is the test tank, yeah. So we needed something that we could really, when we get samples, eyeball it, see it. I'd been doing stuff, honestly, in the pool at home for years. You don't know how many lures actually started out in my pool at home, so we needed something that other people could see and also just be involved in the testing process. And Like you can see with the camera rail mounted on there as well. So
well, not just one above. You've got a camera rail in the pool and one's above the pool. So you really take that filming the action seriously.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. There's sometimes where you just need to be able to, film stuff at that higher frame rate, slow it down, actually look at what it's doing in the water. It really helps you understand, things to change. Like a lot of the time we're trying to tweak little things like the weight balance, just internal weights, how a lure, works, and you just can't see it with the naked eye. You need to be able to kind of film it, slow it down, have a look at it.
And I think that this is a proper length test tank as well. We all know that the affected leaders and lines have on lure actions, and this gives you a proper amount of line out because you can't often do that in 2 or 3 metres.
Oh, absolutely. It's enough to get a good idea of it. It's still on-water testing's required most of the time, but at least this gives you an idea when you get a product that you can sort of look at it and be like, oh yeah, okay, it's doing what I want it to do. Great, it's worth going and taking it out to spend time on the water. So, I mean, as you know, you don't want to go out there and sort of waste your time by the time you put the boat in the water and you're out there. At least this kind of validates, like, yep, take it to the next stage. It's worth spending some time on the water with.
And it's only about 10 steps from your secret room in there that we're not allowed to show you, but there is some cool stuff going in there. I've got 2 questions for you. Firstly, where do you find a largemouth bass which is larger than a wahoo? That's a start.
Yeah, that's
on your wall.
Yeah, on our wall only. Yeah, that's just stylized. I have heard there's some big ones in Mexico. So
there you go. And the second thing is we've got these bass events coming up. Can we take a stroll down to your table there and check out some of the baits that I think you guys are going to love? Come Boondoomer and Somerset.
Absolutely, we've got some really cool baits down there. Come down and I'll show you.
Cool. So we're at the, this is the prep table, I suppose, for the big casting tank there. And Damon, this is where the genesis of a lot of your lures happens. I'm sure you go through heaps of iterations of these baits to make sure they're perfect.
Absolutely. The number of prototypes on some of these is out of control. Like sometimes you get it right straight up, but that's really, really rare. So I mean, most of them would go through anywhere from 8 to 30, prototypes that you're sort of testing, just tweaking little things, just trying to get toe points right, internal weights right. You'll get batches of them with different internal weights that we get made, and yeah, there's a lot of testing. So yeah, kind of lay it out here, jump up, cast it, test it, have a look at it. Oh yeah, that kind of works. Or no, I like this one, weight's a bit further forwards. Just all of that sort of routine. So it's good fun for a sort of technical lure guy. I really enjoy that process and just seeing how they work in the water and what little changes you can make to them. And yeah.
Well, what I think the anglers want though is you've picked out a selection of baits that we think are going to play this next week in the Queensland Dam tournaments. And I think it's really cool for us to get that insight from you to say why you've done the things you've done to make the lures do what they do. So we've picked out a few different baits here. We've got some deep diving cranks. We've got a small Squarebill here, and we've got some vibration baits. Start off with the vibration baits and tell us the story about the 2 different styles here, which I think are going to suit this wintertime bony brim pattern in Queensland.
Absolutely. Well, this first one's called the SWIMTREX. So this actually was a lure I came with long time ago, and this was the foundation of the soft vibes that we did for saltwater. So we actually launched those SWIMTREX range. So we got the SWIMTREX Swim and the SWIMTREX Max. This was actually the first one we made before any of those soft plastic baits. So sort of been sitting on this for a while, waiting to bring it out in a hard bait version, and it essentially swims on the sink. So you can see there that the toe point's kind of close to the front, but it's got a fairly wide body across the top, and it's got a really narrow belly. The trick with this one is there's a little bit of a concave sort of curve in the side there. Probably hard to see on that sort of matte finish, but the shiny one's a bit easier to see. But the combination of the internal weights, the concave curve, the narrow belly, the wide top, and the auto-tune on top has all combined to give you something that it actually swims when it's sinking. So this thing, literally cast it out, it's essentially kind of a yo-yo bait. So you want to cast it out, let it sink, it's going to swim. So when you have a look at we've got video of this thing swimming underwater, and it's a really, really unique action, and then when you lift it, it vibrates. So the combination of that kind of swim on the sink, looks like a sort of a dying, fluttering bait fish, and then you give it a little rip and it kind of vibrates up, and then it's really erratic. So one of the key things I tell people fishing this is you want to do this to catch fish as well, but keep in contact with the bait. Don't let your line go slack. So when you give it a rip and let it kind of swim down, you want to try and maintain contact with the bait.
Just follow it down.
Exactly. Don't end up with a big kind of belly in the line or anything like that, because I mean, first of all, you'll miss fish, but it's a very erratic fall. So when you rip it up, it might swim off to the left, and then you rip it again, and then it might swim off to the right, and then it might try and turn around and swim backwards on itself. But it's super erratic, but that is really what we've found triggers bites.
Yeah, well, you know what other lure does that in the bass that we like? It's of course the ice jig.
Exactly.
Every time you crack it, goes a different way. So this is an ice jig which looks like a bony brim which can't handle the colder winter, and it's going to fall to the bottom.
Exactly, and it obviously it vibrates when you lift it, so it gives that extra bit of sort of appeal. And then it's got that swimming action. So obviously, just when it swims, that kind of the reflection off the side of the lure, whatever it is, it really it really does trigger bites. So usually what we find is when you've done the rip up, once you've just started to lower the rod tip, boom, they'll just grab. Once it's just started to do that first couple of little swims on the sink, they nail it. So that's the first one. That's called the SWIMTREX, and there's another version of this that we called the SWIMTREX Max.
And this is the one that I'm really interested in, because when you come to like a lure that looks like the predatory species, man, this hits the goal. And I noticed that the eye of the lure that you tied the line on, it's further back. Tell us the physics of and what it does to it.
Yeah, so this one's a lot further back than on the standard SWIMTREX. So the idea with this one was to get maximum vibration. So you can see that the body shape on there, this is pretty much the complete reverse of the SWIMTREX. You've got a narrower body on top, and it's got a slightly fattened out belly. So only, it's a very slight difference between the belly and the top, but the toe point's a lot further back. So it's basically more vibration. So this Autotune system on here gives, it's just a huge amount of vibration. This is one of those lures, first time you cast it, you turn the handle 3 times, you're going to be like, whoa, feel that. It's
especially
crazy.
on braid.
Especially on braid, you really feel this thing. So we wanted something that you could crank really slow. Like I was trying to get maximum vibration at just this, if you want to just roll it real slow, it's still vibrating. But have something that even at sort of a moderate speed, it's just got a crazy amount of vibration. So that's what the toe point does. It does allow it to fish a little bit shallower as well, so you can use this as a yo-yo bait as well. You can cast out, let it sink, rip it up, do all that. It basically has also been designed so it sinks level, so you're not having one of these deals where it'll kind of go head first and start spinning around. So you can really fish it as a stop-start sort of deal.
How does it go ripping out a weed? Because I know a pattern that the guys like, throw it in the weed, crack it out. As soon as you crack it out, bang.
Well, it's interesting. I learned something about this fishing with the guys in the US, and I wasn't aware of how important it was over in the US market, but it's the same over here, that it's because of the amount of vibration it's got and the thinner top and the wider belly, like Greg, Gerald, guys I was fishing with over there, like, man, this thing clears weed like nothing I've ever fished. And I was like, oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I meant that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that was all part of the design process, I'll be honest and say that was, that was my objective from a design point of view, was make it have the most vibration that you could possibly get at slow speeds, medium speeds, high speeds. The byproduct of that was that it clears through cover really, really well. So it just doesn't, it's still got trebles on it. It can get hung up like anything, but compared to any other sort of lipless, like it just goes through grass and weed really, really easily. And I guess it's because of the amount of extra vibration it's got.
I love the fact that these are in some smaller sizes as well. And just tell me that does not look like a bony brim, which is about to get eaten by a big Basset Boondoomer.
Even that little colour, the little AG. So that's the 57mm. So that's basically the smaller size. So in this one, we managed to get a little bit of extra weight in there. You can see the weight internally in that sort of clear body. This has been obviously a really popular colour, a little aqua ghost, but smaller size. So that's 14 grams for 57mm. That one. That one's the silent version. So currently we've got the silent version of this one available in Australia. We do have a rattle version coming, but currently this one's
I got one here.
You got the American one. that's the silent Australian one. So yeah, but the weight, you can bomb them out a mile. They sink relatively quickly, but they do also run fairly shallow because of that high, with the position of the toe point. Then they're not a sort of a lipless that's going to run super deep. So if you want to just roll that at a moderate speed, it's going to sit pretty high in the
3
water
or 4
column.
foot deep in the column.
Yeah, I think it's more in that 2 to 3 range. It's
okay.
surprising how shallow it is, and that was again something I learned when I was fishing with the American guys. They wanted something that they could cast a long way but wouldn't actually run too deep.
You can run over the weeds.
Exactly. They want it to just obviously touch the tops of the weeds, you know, kiss across the top of it, bounce through, puff of dust comes off the weeds, whatever, gets their attention, fish come out of the weeds. But a lot of the time that sort of 4 foot's nearly too deep, whereas, you know, 2, 2.5, 3, they were finding if you just run it just a little bit faster than they might normally do, like a slow roll, it just sits up a little bit higher, and they can, you know, sort of run it across the top of the weed. So it's super versatile, you know. And for me, that's always important in any lure. It just doesn't matter whether it's, you know, bass, barra, offshore, versatility where I want to be able to have a couple of different ways that I can fish it. It's just more, I just find it's more fun when you're fishing to be like, oh, well, I can cast and go faster, or I can yo-yo it, or, you know, whatever you want to do. It's just a, you know, more interesting way to fish.
The other part of the equation for the Southeast Queensland dams in winter is the crankbaits.
Yes.
So, you know, we saw the Queensland, or was it the Australian Open last year, won on long lining for one of the days. We know that this is these things are going to be great. I want to take us through the concept of these crankbaits, how deep they go, and I think they're right in the hitting zone size-wise for our Aussie bass. Yeah,
these things are incredible how deep they'll run. So the biggest size, the 80, will get down, you know, 25 feet plus, which, you know, is crazy for a bait like that. The 65, you're looking around that sort of 18. I think, I mean, if you're long lining that, I wouldn't be surprised if you get that. Yeah, you're going to get that down further, but casting, you know, on a long cast, we're sort of rating that at, you know, 18 to 20 feet on a cast. This one's sort of 25 foot plus. So again, you're going to be getting over 30 feet with the bigger one if you're long lining it. But the technology in this is all about the Autotune system. So this started years ago. The DTX minnows offshore, it was all about get it deep, let it run fast. So this is really the foundation of a lot of the technology with, you know, it's the same system essentially on the lipless crankbaits, but on this, it just makes it go super deep. And the reason it does that, I love being able to talk to you about the technical side of this stuff. The Autotune tow point, it's basically a metal plate on a couple of pins, and it essentially, I mean, you can quite see it in there with my big finger moving around, but that metal plate kind of moves and it effectively self-centers. So that's like, you know, patented technology that we've come up with over years, and just applied it to a whole bunch of different applications. On this, the fact that you can put it as far back, so any lure design has a point of balance where if you put the tow point too far back on the body, you know, the balance between the force on the bib and the force on the body, it just kind of overbalances and it
unstabilizes.
Exactly, it just won't swim. Now that center of balance is where you want your tow point for maximum depth. So a traditional fixed tow point, unless you can get that fixed tow point perfectly centered, you can't ever really put a fixed tow point on that center of balance, because you know, the reality is, from a production point of view, you just can't manufacture product like this cost effectively.
The tolerances are too fine.
The tolerances are too fine. So that's why, you know, like we all grew up grabbing the lures and, you know, having to give it a little tweak to get it to run straight and all that sort of routine. So the idea was, how do you make something, you can just take it out of the box and it works, and the byproduct is that you can mount it further back on the lip and it just runs really, really deep. So for any size of lure, that's going to allow you to just get it running deeper than, you know, really anything else you can probably fish out there.
And I think from an angler's point of view, that's what you want. You want it to not have to tune it all day, and for it to get the depth, because when you're long lining especially, you want it to get down, and if the bass are in 40 foot, that's where you want your crankbait to go.
Yeah, and you don't want to be looking at it thinking, oh God, it's swimming out to the left, or it's this. You just want it to be like, right, it's running straight, it's running deep, I'm not messing around. You know, like from guiding years ago, we were out there and, you know, trying to take people fishing, you pull stuff out of the box, doesn't work. You don't look real good when the product you're recommending is not working. So that's kind of where all this idea came from.
Last one we're looking at, the little Squarebill here, becoming more and more popular as guys sort of rediscover crankbaits. I'm sure you and I caught our first bass on crankbaits.
Absolutely,
and you've got it remanufactured here. So what do we got?
So that one's a little Atlas 55. So yeah, just a classic Squarebill crank that really clears through cover. You can fish this through timber. I mean, I've gone around and played with this up at the, top of the Noosa River, catching bass up there. I love doing that sort of stuff. Just, you know, those really beautiful rivers, just real heavy structure though, where you're kind of having to, you know, cast into stuff and work it over timber and all the rest of it. And bass, you know, same as whether it's jacks or bass, love it. But that's what this is all about, is working through cover, not getting fouled up. It's got the wide gap hooks on it, so, you know, just a really good casting, easy to use, and again, huge action. So the objective with this one was balance the body out. It's got the, you know, flat bit on the head, just trying to get the most action at the slowest speed. I mean, you know, it's like a lot of the time that you want to just be able to work it slow, keep it in the zone, and get a lot of action out of it.
And you want the feedback. You want to know it's swimming right. It hasn't got weed on it, and the bass can do the rest.
Exactly. So yeah. So there's a really good range of baits there, but I think, you know, the SWIMTREX Max, and obviously the, you know, the D-Track there, the deep diving version, something a little bit different. And yeah, just, you know, go out there and give them a shot. And I think, you know, particularly for me, that one that swims on the sink is just so much fun to use, because you know, you can see where, you know, when you're using your electronics properly, you can see where the fish are. Being able to cast in there and just get that reaction where you know the fish are there. Sometimes they're not eating something else, and the joy for me is working the lure in a way where you're making the fish eat it. So yeah.
Well, we really appreciate Nomad coming on board you with the through BKK. You were the Bass Electric sponsor last year until Mercury pushed you out with Avatar. But you've got the lures that we need now to do well in the bass tournaments. I know I'm going to have some tied on come these two events here, available in the local tackle stores.
Absolutely. No, they're available at all good local tackle stores. So yeah, go check them out, and hopefully everyone has a bit of fun with them.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thanks for the tour.
No worries. Thanks,
and
mate.
I loved your tank.
Awesome. Yeah, it's good fun.